Good morning. I'm Trevor Alt in for Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. In today's update, 142 million Americans have now received at least one dose of the vaccine. That's about 55% of the adult population. But health officials are growing concerned as the demand for vaccines is now on the decline. And across the country, thousands of doses are going unused. Now, overall, COVID-19 cases are dropping and states are now rolling back more restrictions. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announced this morning the vaccine is defeating COVID and the city will fully reopen July 1st. 3 Georgia men are now indicted on federal hate crime and attempted kidnapping charges in the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. Arbery was out jogging last year when those men chased and fatally shot the 25-year-old. No trial date has been set. And there is good news on the economic front. The U.S. GDP jumped 6.4% last quarter as the economy recovers from the pandemic, but there is still a long way to go. 553,000 people filed for unemployment last week. That's slightly more than what analysts were expecting. Well, President Biden is now 100 days into his presidency, and last night he outlined his vision for the next 100 and well beyond that. Biden pitched plans for trillions in new spending aimed at substantial new investments in healthcare, education, the environment, infrastructure, police reform, and more.
America's moving forward, but we can't stop now. We're in competition with China and other countries to win the 21st century. We're at a great inflection point in history. We have to do more than just build back better. We have to build back better. We have to compete more strenuously than we have.
A lot of ambitious plans to work through in this speech, and thankfully White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks is joining us now for more. Mary Alice, the president laid out some lofty goals, to be frank, so keep us grounded here. With the Democrats' razor-thin majority, how likely are some of these plans to get through Congress, and are there any areas where we could actually see bipartisan congressional support?
Well, look, this morning on Good Morning America, Vice President Kamala Harris said that the efforts to work across the aisle were sincere. She talked about bipartisan meetings that have been taking place in the Oval Office at the White House. And I was struck by the fact that twice last night during his remarks, President Biden made specific mention of places where there were ongoing negotiations. He called out the Republicans' counter-proposal on infrastructure, basically gave them credit for coming to the table and trying to signal to the country that Washington is at least talking, that both sides of the aisle are working. But this is a big political gamble. President Biden pitching these huge proposals, these absolutely massive plans. And while there is a lot of bipartisan conversations ongoing about some of the very specific provisions in those plans, right now Republicans just say altogether these proposals are too big.
Right. We'll have to see if any of those negotiations bear fruit. We know Republican Senator Tim Scott gave the GOP's rebuttal. He said Biden's speech was full of good words, but he thinks so far the administration's actions have been divisive. What do you think he was referring to exactly, and what, if anything, is President Biden doing to bridge that divide?
Yeah, like what I was just saying, they're bringing Republicans over to the White House. They're trying to make the pitch to Republicans that some of these policy proposals are actually very popular with the American public. I think that we shouldn't be surprised that Republicans are pushing back against the idea of changing the tax code. You know, Republicans like Senator Tim Scott worked hard with President Trump to change taxes. They were proud that they lowered taxes for corporations, that they lowered taxes. And so here you have a Democratic president in office saying he wants to reverse that. He wants to bring taxes back to much closer to where they were before the Trump administration. And Republicans just don't like that idea for paying for some of these proposals. You know, I think that President Biden is going to continue to say, bring me new ideas then. We heard him say last night he is open to different ideas for paying for some of these plans, but he said he's not interested in doing nothing. And I think that that's putting a lot of pressure on on Republicans to come to the table with at least some ideas. It's not going to play well in the end, I think, for them to look like a party that didn't want to at least have an exchange of ideas.
And of course, we've heard from the Biden White House that if an idea that passes has strong support from citizens, it doesn't necessarily need Republicans to vote for it to be considered bipartisan. And maybe following that idea, President Biden and Vice President Harris are now hitting the road campaigning for their agenda. Where are they headed? What do they need to do to get these plans across the finish line with or without Republican support?
Well, we've seen the president today in Georgia and the vice president, too. They're hitting the road, like you said, up and down the East Coast. They're holding a lot of these car rallies like we saw during the campaign. They're still trying to maintain social distance, sort of take those COVID protocols. But they know they need to be out there in the country talking about these proposals. I think what they're trying to do is tell Americans it's okay to believe in government. They are betting on this idea that Americans spent a lot of this last year reflecting on civic life, reflecting on their relationship with their schools or their relationship with health care. And they're saying because of this historic year, it's okay to imagine historic investments or historic changes. But it's still a hard sell. Even Americans who approve of the president's plan say, in our polling at least, that they are worried about such a dramatic expansion of government spending. They're apprehensive. Americans have always been apprehensive about the idea of expanding the federal government. And President Biden is trying to say this is the time to do it.
Hard to imagine a bigger bet than $1 trillion bet. Mary Alice Parks, appreciate your time. Always great to see you. And the area that President Biden has received the highest approval is his handling of the pandemic. And as more adults in the U.S. are getting vaccinated, researchers are working on the next phase of the fight against COVID-19, and that's protecting kids. When we come back, we're going to take a closer look at Pfizer and Moderna's trials for children under 16 years old and the families taking part. Welcome back. As political and public health officials work to get more American adults to sign up for a COVID-19 vaccine, researchers are working on the next phase of the fight against coronavirus, protecting young children. Both Pfizer and Moderna are in active clinical trials for their vaccines with children under 16 years old. ABC's Kenna Whitworth has an inside look at those trials and the families who are taking part.
Nearly 140 million American adults have received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, with more than 96 million adults fully vaccinated against the deadly disease.
See, buddy?
And now researchers are hard at work conducting vaccine trials on the youngest generation, which many doctors believe is crucial to reaching herd immunity.
Children under 18 make up 85 million people in this country, so that's about 20% of the population. And it's a substantial contribution to reducing transmission of the virus.
Today, kids as young as 6 months old are taking part in trials for both Moderna and Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccines with their parents' consent.
Far away.
Dr. Zena Good enrolled both her sons in Stanford Hospital's Pfizer trial.
So we thought participating is a really good way to protect our kids. And so far, because this vaccine has been tested in a lot of teenagers and so many adults, and it was shown very safe, we felt pretty comfortable to participate.
7-month-old Soren, one of the youngest in the trial, received his first shot last week. Mom says he's doing well. His older brother, 3-year-old Andal, also got the shot.
Did he experience any side effects from the vaccine?
He had a sore arm for a day and was a little bit low on energy for a day, but yes, that's not much.
We're not sure it's even side effects. He might have just been tired that morning.
Dr. Good is an immunologist who has studied the virus at length and says she and her husband are confident in the safety of the vaccine.
The data is very clear. Those who get vaccines, like these mRNA vaccines, at least, they are protected, and they don't really have any real side effects or long-term consequences.
Dr. Angela LaCour's 3-year-old daughter is also in the trial.
Hey, how about that?
That's it.
Look at you, brave kid.
gosh, you are the bravest.
She says she feels strongly that doing this isn't just about keeping her child safe.
We're just so lucky that we have a healthy child, and so grateful that she's able to be part of this. But I think knowing that there are so many other parents out there whose children are vulnerable and maybe struggling, and they're really waiting for the vaccine to become a reality, her being able to be part of this and make that as a reality for other families. And as a mom, I can't imagine what that fear must be like for them. We're just so proud of her.
Outside of a fever, a rash at the injection site, did they talk to you about any potential side effects?
I know that in very extreme and rare circumstances, like they couldn't even give us a rate for this, there's the risk of anaphylaxis. And again, she hasn't had any kind of reaction to other vaccines, so not something I was very concerned about. But it also brought us a lot of comfort that we were doing this across the street from the hospital.
Both families tell ABC News they understand the potential risks of taking part in the trial, but believe any risks are far outweighed by the potential protection of the vaccine.
When it comes down to it, it's about weighing the risks. What are the risks of the vaccine and what are the risks of the virus? And the risks of the virus are pretty clear.
These vaccines have been given to tens of millions of people around the world, and the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines have been shown to be extremely safe and appear to be highly effective. And my hope is that we will see the same thing for children.
COVID-19 has killed at least 573,000 Americans since the pandemic began. Fewer than 450 of those deaths were under the age of 18.
Children can become infected. Children can transmit to other people, and they can actually become symptomatic as well. So yes, it doesn't seem to act the same way as it does in adults and older children, but it definitely does infect them, and they can actually transmit to others.
Dr. Steve Plimpton is the principal investigator for Moderna's trial in children.
We're also going to be protecting those around those children, the teachers, the parents at home, the grandparents at home. So that's the unspoken benefit of this study.
In Moderna's phase 1 trial, all kids will follow up for their second shot after 28 days, and in Pfizer, 21 days later. Researchers refer to this as a dosing trial as they try to figure out how much of the vaccine kids can tolerate and how much they need to be protected. After researchers find an appropriate dose with the younger children, they move on to the second part of the trial, and that includes splitting the kids into a placebo and a treatment group.
So we'll follow these children out for a year to determine how they've done with it.
Pfizer's study involves 5,000 kids nationwide, and they say they hope to have the results by winter. In the meantime, doctors say protecting against variants spreading in children will remain a challenge. For now, the vaccines are holding up against all known COVID-19 variants. And for the families participating in the trial, some peace of mind, knowing their children may have early protection.
Not knowing if this is the kind of virus that would come back later in life, like those things concern me. And we know that she'd probably be fine if she got COVID now, but who knows what would happen down the road. So again, protecting her in that way brings us a lot of comfort.
That's Kana Whitworth reporting. Kana, thank you. More than 142 million Americans have gotten their first dose of the COVID vaccine. That's more than 54% of the adult population. But the concerning trend now is demand for vaccines is dropping across the country, and thousands of doses are set to expire this afternoon. So joining me now for more on the race to vaccinate is epidemiologist and ABC News contributor, Dr. John Brownstein. Doctor, good morning. Thanks for joining us. There was always this concern that the demand drop was looming around the corner. Why are we seeing it happen now? And how do we get to herd immunity if interest in the vaccine continues to fade even further?
Yeah, Trevor, this is a really important issue that is evolving. We knew it was going to happen. We didn't think maybe it was going to happen this soon. You mentioned 142 million Americans have been vaccinated. That's amazing. But we have over 100 million that have yet to be vaccinated. And we've gone from this sort of desperate search for vaccine to now trying to sway the public to get immunized. We had this first wave with the older population that was really, on board with the vaccine. Now we have the younger population that is not necessarily on board. They may be hesitant because they're not interested in the side effects. They want to wait and see. They may not trust the vaccine or may just not see it as valuable for themselves. So we have to be pushing policy decisions that sort of open up supply, make it as easy as possible for people to get the vaccine. That is, of course, using pharmacies and pop-ups and mobile clinics. We know that 90% of Americans are within 5 miles of a site, but that's not always the best kind of site for everyone. And we've seen these innovative strategies like paying people or maybe giving free beers or shots. I mean, whatever it takes, I guess. But then when you look at what's happening in India with the massive increase, we should be so thankful for this vaccine. So we need to educate the public of why it's so important and why getting us all on board the vaccine ultimately gets us to that herd immunity number.
So we have those concerns with getting people to get the shot at all. But beyond that, we know that you just wrote a paper that came out today about Americans, many of them who have already received a first dose of the vaccine, confused about the timing and the protection, the necessity of that second dose. So can you clarify for us, how important is it to get that second dose, and how important is it to get it in the set timing window that's recommended?
Yeah, this is a good question. And unfortunately, what we found is that millions of people are not getting that second dose in the recommended time. There's a lot of reasons for that, challenges of getting that second appointment, or maybe they're afraid of the side effects because they had some side effects from the first dose. But we're also finding out that there's an education issue. People don't actually fully understand when they're protected. You need that 2-dose regime. You need to wait 1 to 2 weeks. There's a lot of confusion. And so we need to educate people on why it's so important to get that second dose, because that fully gives you that protection that we saw in the clinical trials. And yes, I think there's this real challenge of getting everyone to think about the importance of a 2-dose strategy. I think that, ultimately that's what we need to get to that herd immunity number. I think that, again, it's about getting everyone on board and fully explaining, what the clinical trial showed and not allowing people to miss that second dose.
We don't want to discount the positive progress that we've made in a lot of areas. We're starting to see some of these returns to normal life. But with that, for example, schools returning, the Kansas City Star is reporting doctors there saying more parents are refusing to have their sick children tested for coronavirus because they don't want to deal with the hassle if the results are positive. What's your message to parents who might suspect that their kids have COVID?
Yeah, this is so tricky because, of course, we want to stop with all the interventions. Obviously, we want to get the masks off. We want to stop with testing. But the message really is to hang on a little bit longer. We have 60,000 cases a day still in this country. We have active transmission in places like Oregon and Washington and Michigan. The situation improves. We will see the data get better. And over time, we'll get to stop with the testing. But for now, it's important to identify people who are infected. We know that the younger population is what is driving infection in the community. And we know that, children represent 30% of reported cases. You do not want to be sending your child back into school infected. We know there are plenty of vulnerable kids out there that can deal with the worst of this virus. That would be unfair and, in fact, would put the whole school in jeopardy of closing. And so this is all about trying to protect yourself, but also the community to get to that point. Now, we will get to a point where we can stop with the testing, but I think we're a few months away from that.
I don't want to necessarily use the term silver lining, but I think a sentiment a lot of people have shared is this has been a terrible pandemic. It could have been even worse if this virus was deadlier for children. Having said that, we just saw Kana's piece about the future of vaccinating children. How vital is it for children to get vaccinated for us to be able to move past this pandemic?
We keep talking about herd immunity, and that number could be about 80%. It might be more based on variants. And so with children making up 20% of the population, you have this important segment that needs to get vaccinated. We know that we're not going to get to 80% just on adults alone. We just discussed hesitancy issue or people not wanting to get the vaccine. There are plenty of adults that can't get the vaccine for a variety of reasons or may not mount an effective immune response because of an underlying condition. So we need kids to get on board with the vaccine. It's not necessarily because they're at higher risk, but it's because it will drive down transmission in the community. I do think we're going to see the 12 and over getting vaccinated later this summer, younger kids into 2022. And that means that these vaccinated kids will also get to enjoy all the benefits of all these CDC guidelines for those that are vaccinated as well.
Summertime vaccinations for above 12, that would be a huge development. Of course, a lot of that is contingent on these trials that are happening right now with both Pfizer and Moderna. What's your advice to parents whose children maybe could be part of those vaccine trials? And really just in general, what do parents need to know about the vaccines as we get into the summer or into 2022 and they hopefully become available to children?
As we've been saying throughout the pandemic, these clinical trials are the key, right? Because they provide us important data of efficacy, but also safety. So parents that are volunteering their kids into these trials, they're heroes. The parents are heroes, the kids are heroes because they're giving us that critical data on safety and efficacy. The full expectation is that these vaccines will be incredibly safe. We've already given out 1 billion doses of vaccine across the globe. The safety looks incredible, but we'll get more data. And as we get that data in kids, we'll be able to evaluate it. And then, the FDA will make a decision on whether they can expand the EUA to include kids. I fully expect that to happen. I think the recommendation will be to expand to kids. And, we'll start to see this, kids getting vaccinated. I think hopefully parents will get on board with this because they'll recognize that it's about keeping their kids safe, but it's also about bringing down transmission in the community and finally being at the other end of this pandemic.
Hopefully we can keep that demand up in at least that category. Dr. John Brownstein, thank you and appreciate your time. Well, that does it for this ABC News Live update. I'm Trevor Alden for Diane Macedo. Thanks for joining us. And remember, ABC News Live is here for you all day with the latest news, context, and analysis. And be sure to tune in to The Breakdown at 3 p.m. Eastern with Terry Moran. Have a great day.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.